All right, you all. It's the third Wednesday night edition of the People Show. I'm Mark Wallace, your host and your facilitator of this edition of the People Show. Let me get my gear here together. Sorry about that. Okay. All right. Now, there we are. Okay. Sorry about that. All right. So, well, the election is just about over. There are some races that haven't been concluded. The state's attorney's race is still out there. It's like I think the last I looked it was 51 to 48% in favor of Eileen Burke over Clayton Harris. And it looks like the Bring Home Chicago real estate transfer tax referendum is looks like it may not make it. But even if it makes it, I think that it is not a win for the mayor. And let me tell you, I sent a message to the mayor the other day, um, as well as to some of his um, advisors, that if this goes down, right, if it goes down, it is going to go down because of poor messaging. It's the same thing that happened when they had the Fair Tax Act, when they were trying to pass the Tax Act, where wealthier people making more than $400,000 a year would pay a graduated income tax that was more that was more relative and equitable and fair to their income, as to paying the same thing that a lower income person paid. It seems that whenever people who earn more money is asked to give more, it is a problem, and we have more people who defend that who uh, don't exist in that environment. Those of us who earn more money, it doesn't hurt or change our lifestyles to pay a little bit more to help those who need the help, to help it be better for everybody. Because the fact of the matter is, very wealthy people, or people who have the big wealthy corporations and the companies and sells all the products and services, those people are going to do well when people at the bottom and people in the middle are doing better. That's just a fact, because the people who are doing better at the bottom, they have more money that they can provide and take care of themselves. That means that they have a little bit more money that they can buy goods and services, and they're going to buy wealthy people's goods and services, which is going to expand the economy. It's going to expand the tax base, and it's going to create more jobs. It's going to create more opportunity. So this is an investment that governments will be able to make, and to provide for people who need help the most. And we have people who are just begrudging that, as though they don't understand it, but they do understand it. But also, that when I talk to people who are in that income category, and I ask them, if you would mind paying a little bit more, would you mind paying a little bit more to help people who need help the most? Most people, by and large, are not against that. I think the real problem is the messaging of how that is going to work that comes out of government. Something happens between leaving ordinary um, citizen to becoming a part of government and the bureaucracy, that they cut off communications with citizens. They cut off communications with people, and they surround themselves by a few people. I don't know if they're just yes people, or I don't know if they're just these few people who have these few ideas and they don't expand the ideas. They don't check with the public at large to see whether or not whatever the ideas that they are circulating or that they are contemplating, whether those ideas make sense to the public at large, or at least to people who are out in the public who can have some insight to the public. I mean, it is just it's just that it's really just that simple. So what has happened here with the real estate um, transfer tax, with the referendum? This referendum, and I have it here, and I wish I would have put it down so that you all could see this. It is 8 paragraphs long on a ballot. Nobody is going to read this referendum. And if they read the referendum, they're not going to understand it. It's 8 paragraphs long. So I sent a message to Mayor Johnson. I sent a message to two of his aides. I sent a text message. And I sent this message, and I said in the message that this is probably not going to make a difference, but that if the real estate transfer tax goes down, it is not going to go down because it's a bad policy. It's going to go down because of poor messaging. That's why it's going to fail if it fails. And it looks like it's failing. And it's very unfortunate that that is happening because of poor messaging. So it tells me that either they have not enough of ideas on how to message things, and certainly they didn't test it to see whether or not that message was clear, concise, and that that message could refute the opposition message, which called it a property tax. And it's not a property tax. It is a transfer tax. It's a one-time tax. And the tax is already there. And all you would be paying if you were buying a property that exceeded $1.1 million or something like that, that you would pay, or 1.4, I'm sorry, that you would pay a graduated rate on the difference, not on the entire amount, on the difference. So you're going to pay a deduction on that's less than the 1.4, but on the 400,000 you would pay a graduated rate on the difference. And they never explained it like that, because people that I talked to, and certainly I, who has been in the real estate business for more than 40 years, I looked at these commercials and I saw the commercials and I saw a stark difference between the two. The opposition, even though it was phony, even though they were not true, they were clear, simple for people to understand and grasp. The messages for the transfer tax was not clear. It was confusing to people. It had people thinking that it wasn't. And then people just wanted to know how the money was going to be accounted for. And all the mayor had to say was that it will be a line item, and we will be able to demonstrate how this money is being allocated and how the money is being spent, specifically to house the homeless. Just respond and tell the people what's going on. Something absolutely happens that people are not transparent when they get into government. They give this uh, send off this message that they're always on the defensive. You don't have to be on the defensive. You don't have to be on the defensive. All you have to do is tell people what's going on, whether it is favorable information or whether it is not favorable information, but tell people the truth, because we know that you cannot please everybody when you're in government, when you are serving people, when you are mayor, when you're a governor, when you're this or that or the other. We know that you're not going to appease everybody, but what you can do to everybody is tell everybody the truth. You can tell everybody the truth, share the truth with people, and defend your position. One of the things that I learned from the great late Harold Washington was that when he had his mind to do something and he entrusted the people around him and he thought it through, thought about it, he put it out and he didn't worry about the consequences. Sometimes it's a good idea. Other times it may not be a good idea, but you have to do something. You have to try something. Franklin Delano Roosevelt said that you can't just sit by. You have to do something. And if it doesn't work, then you regroup and you figure out what kind of adjustments you have to make. But if you've thought it through, then you need to make sure that you can communicate it, because one of the things that serving in government is communication. You have to be able to communicate to people, and you have to be able to communicate to people the truth. People will accept the truth. They might not like it, but they'll accept it and they'll respect the idea that you as the leader, or you as the mayor, you as the servant of the people, that they have entrusted you with that role, that you're going to tell us the truth, whether it's the ugly truth or the pretty truth, but you're going to tell us the truth. And I believe that the problem here with the transfer tax is poor messaging. It is poor messaging. So I say to the mayor that he may need to reconsider whoever his inner circle of people are that are advising him, that he needs to really reconsider that. If he's going to have a successful administration as mayor of the city of Chicago, and if he is going to want for the public to trust him for another term, he has got to adjust. I want for the mayor to be successful. I voted for the mayor. I support the mayor. I rallied for the mayor. I want for him to be, I paid for rallies for the mayor. I want for the mayor to be successful. But I am seeing some real concerns of communication problems within the mayor. And I know that it's not the mayor, it is the mayor because he's the responsible person. So it is the mayor. And when I say that it is the mayor, you have to make the decision to get people to respond. They have to communicate. And the public will respect that. The public will accept the truth. The public will respect the truth. We're not new to people telling us things that we don't necessarily like, but it's good medicine for us. And in the case of the real estate transfer tax, I call it the REIT, R-E-T-T, that, or the RET, It was poor messaging. Bottom line, the policy, the idea is not bad. There are people who didn't mind it. You're talking about a one-time tax. It doesn't affect rent. And in fact, because if it did pass, and if the city council did pass it, guess what? If you're going to say that it's going to affect rent, it will cause rent to go down because the selling of 95% of the properties in the city of Chicago are less than $1 million. 95% of the properties that would be sold or potentially to be sold are going to be less than $1 million. So those properties would have gotten a tax cut in terms of the transfer tax or the sales tax, because that's what it is. It is a sales tax because you pay that tax to the city of Chicago when you sell your property or when you buy a property. So it is called a transfer tax, but it is really a sales tax. And the buyer pays that tax to the city of Chicago. There are lots of ways that this could have been simply communicated. Simply communicated. The real estate transfer tax is a one-time tax. It is a tax no differently than you go to buy a car, to go to buy any large ticket items. You have to pay a sales tax. They just call it a transfer tax. But it is the same thing. You buy a car, you pay the taxes depending on whatever the sales tax is for that particular locale. And if that tax is 10%, if it is 8%, whatever the tax is, you have to pay it. That's a transfer tax. You're getting a car transferred to you, you pay for the car and you pay the tax on it one time. The same thing when you buy a house in the city of Chicago. The city of Chicago gets a piece of that tax. They call it a transfer tax, but it is just a sales tax on the purchase of that property. And you pay a small percentage of that, less than 1%, goes to the city of Chicago. And they were going to reduce that amount down to a little more than 5/8. If this passes, or if it had passed, I don't know if it's going to pass. Some say it's probably not going to make it. But it's not because it's a bad policy. It is not because it's a bad policy. It is bad messaging. And I hope that the mayor gets it. I hope that Brandon gets the message. I hope that he read my message. I hope that he got it and understands that this is what, if it fails, this is what, even if it passes, it's going to pass by the thinnest of margin because it was a failed messaging. The PR was just bad. Just bad. All right. Now, I want to move on to the Board of Review. The Board of Review, we came up short on the Board of Review. And that message was, let me pull up, I want to pull up the all of the results to see if I can get to it. But the Board of Review, we came up short on the Board of Review, and so we were not able to be successful in that. So let me see if I can pull that, because I didn't see the actual results in the Board of Review, but I want to see if I can pull that up here. These are all the state races. Justice Cynthia Cobbs won big. Thank you all for sending Justice Cynthia Cobbs back to the bench for a full term. The most brilliant judicial um, officer serving on the bench at any level. I mean, the most capable is Justice Cynthia Cobbs. We are much better off by having her in the judiciary. And there is nothing short of that. She is a spectacular jurist, and so I'm really happy for her that she's going back, and we're going to have her to come on. We're going to do a roundtable with some of the justices. We're going to have, Carl Walker is going to come on, and he is also going back. He didn't have any opponent, but if he did, he would have won resoundingly. So really happy that that he made it back. And so I'm going to be doing a roundtable with all of them. Unfortunately, Judge Leonard Murray was not successful this time around. However, we still have him at the circuit court level as the supervising judge in the housing division, and which is a very important place that we need to have him there. So I don't see those results here, but we were not successful at the Board of Review. So what that really means is Larry Rogers Jr. and George Cardenas will continue to do what they're doing. But I think that the more that we put information out there, the more that we could watch what's going on at the Board of Review. And hopefully we can stem the Board of Review overriding the assessor by giving wealthy property owners tax cuts that they really should not be getting, so that they can pass those tax cuts on to homeowners on the south and south suburbs of Chicago. That's what's been happening. That practice has been going on hugely for the last 20 years, and Larry Rogers Jr. has been a big part of that. Larry Rogers Jr. has been a big part of that, and which is why we need to change that seat. Because if you want to change the practice, you have to change the person. It is a very rare occasion that the same person is going to change and do a different practice. Only if we are putting serious pressure on them, and certainly paying attention to what they're doing. So we're going to have to do that, because Larry Rogers Jr. is going to be in that office for another 4 years, doing what he's been doing, being the bidder for these tax appeal attorneys that puts lots of money into his campaign war chest, as well as send his law firm, refer him business to his law firm. So that's where we were. We weren't able to tell the story, and we weren't able to convince the enough of the electorate to make a change. So that's where that is. So we're stuck with what we got. That's what the rules are. And so we're stuck with it, and we're going to have to live with it, and work with it. And hopefully that we can make some change by putting some pressure on them. So Larissa Tucker, who we were supporting and trying to get into that office, we were not successful at doing that. So we didn't win there. Mary Flowers, also one of the longest serving members of the House, did not survive an onslaught that was being put out by Chris Welch, Derek Curtis, and Willie Preston and others, and the unions putting over $1 million in that race. And they put up a largely no-name person that none of us know anything about, that will obviously be their go along to get along vote in the General Assembly. So there you go. And so she was not able to ward off that onslaught. But it speaks to some other problems that we have. It speaks to some other problems that we have, is that we still have a lot of work to do. It's important. We've got to become a collective. We've got to build strong voting blocks. I'm going to be talking about it tomorrow night At our weekly 10 by 10 to win meeting, I am going to pull up the results so that people can see what the results are and see how we can be impactful. Because if we build a strong enough block and we see what the numbers were in this election and how people voted and the low numbers that they vote, if we just had 10,000 people in each one of our wards and district, we would control elections. We would determine many, many seats in legislative houses, whether that be at the municipal level, the county level, or the state level. We will be able to do that, but we will not do that until such time as we organize. And if we don't organize, we will continue to be fractionized. We will continue to be disenfranchised. Period. Period. Nothing short of that. Get organized, then we will have real power. Continue with individualism, we will have no power. And we will continually have nothing but symbolism going on in our respective places. We will just elect Black people to be in seats of power with no power. Period. That's what we will continue to do until we organize. But if you join me tomorrow night at our 10 by 10 to win meeting, all you have to do is text 10x10 to the number 855-909-1385. Text 10x10 to the number 855-909-1385. I'll put it in the chat so that you can get it there. And to 855-909-1385. And you'll get a reception. And then tomorrow you'll receive the Zoom link and you can participate in the meeting. Organize. If we don't organize, we will continue to be disenfranchised. We organize, then we will continue to be empowered to shape and determine our own way. Period. Nothing short of that. We can see that happening. All right. Again, text 10x10 to the number 855-909-1385, and then you'll be able to get into the text alert and receive the Zoom link tomorrow for tomorrow night's meeting. If we're not organized, we'll continue to get disenfranchised. Just remember that. Nothing short of that. And all you have to do, you don't have to listen or believe me, just look around and look at the conditions of our community. We have a bunch of Black people who are elected to Black political position or to political positions of power with no power. Look at the conditions of our communities. 47% unemployment in Black males between the ages of 18 to 25. They're also out of school. We have just loads and loads and loads of blighted areas in our communities. We have more poor communities than any other community or any other ethnic group in the city of Chicago. There's not a single white poor community in Chicago anymore. Not one. We lead in that area, which is supposed to be a world-class city, but yet we have poor Black communities in the city of Chicago. That's where we are. All right. Because we're disorganized. Now we have the numbers to put real strong liberation in the masses, because it's only going to come through the masses. It's not going to be any one individual man or a woman that's going to be the liberator of Black people. Black people are going to be the liberator of Black people by the masses organizing ourselves together. That's how we're going to do it. 10 by 10 to win is that model. It is that infrastructure that we can come together and we can build and have our own union of a united, independent Black voting bloc. It is not a bloc to be anti any other group or anti any other person or anti any other people. It is simply Black people that are banding ourselves together for the interests of the Black community. That's what that is for, period. Nothing else. So, but if we don't do it, and until we do it, we'll continue to be disenfranchised. Remember, continue to be fractionized and will continue to be disenfranchised. Period. They will continue to divest in our communities. All right. School systems will continue to erode. Our economic base will continue to erode, and they will use and continue to do things like what's being done to us, saddling our communities with other people's debt, with other people's taxes that we ended up having to pay because we don't have the power to put ourselves in a position to say to a person, you no longer will be in a position to put other people's debt on us. Why? Because we're going to replace you with someone who is going to make sure that our interests are fairly represented as well. You can only do that when you're organized. You cannot do that in the way that we are moving as Black people today in the political spectrum. It cannot work. It will not work, and it has never worked. That's why unions are very strong, because unions are a body and they work as a body. That's why they're very strong. And all I'm saying is we need to build a Black independent voting union. That's what we have to do. All right. We're going to talk more about that tomorrow night, so make sure that you join us. All right. There is something happening. You all know that we, the citizens to abolish red light cameras, have continued to work to call out the injustice of red light cameras and speed cameras. I know that they are purported to be safety mechanisms. They are not. What they are mechanisms that generate a lot of money, and it provides enrichment to a few people. We don't know who those people are. We know who the people are on the front end. We just don't know who the people are that are sharing in that on the back end. And there may be some people who look just like us, because we have foyered the city's contract with the red light cameras and the speed cameras, which are all run by Microsoft or not Microsoft, Xerox. I'm sorry, Xerox, right? Has that contract, but there are other subs within that contract. So we have been trying to get FOIA that contract, and to this point, they have blocked us from getting that information. However, we're going to continue to fight. There is a big report that is coming out. That is a big report that is coming out, a statewide analysis on red light cameras, as well as analysis on the speed cameras in the city of Chicago. The city of Chicago is the only municipality within the state of Illinois that is allowed to have speed cameras because of the way that the law was written. The legislator said, I will not support it if that is going to come into our community. We do not want it in our districts. So the legislators in our district supported it, and they supported the language that says that the only municipalities that could have speed cameras must have a minimum of 1 million residents. There's only one municipality in all of Illinois that meets that standard, and that's the city of Chicago. So the city of Chicago is the only city that has speed cameras. So the city of Chicago is the only city that has red light cameras and speed cameras in the state of Illinois. And the city of Chicago is the only city that has the most red light cameras in the municipality than any other city in the country. Red light cameras, that is. There's no other city in the country that has more red light cameras than the city of Chicago. There's a big report and a big story that is coming out in on this story. I'm working with the outlet that is putting out this analysis. And what we're looking for is we're looking for people who have gotten multiple red light camera tickets, multiple speed camera tickets to talk with the reporters in this story. So we're going to get people to share their stories with the reporter. And if you would like to share your story with the reporter, please get in contact with me. You can contact me at 773 617 2042. Or you can email me at markjwas@gmail.com. I'm going to put it in the chat and my phone number as well, that you can get in contact with me there. If you would like to share your story, um, um, to share your story, if you would like to share your story with the reporter. So if you would be interested um, to share your story, call me, and we will make sure that we connect you with the reporter. I'm going to put this in if you want to share your story. Share your red light or speed camera ticket story. Okay. All right. So there you go. We want you to send that information in or contact me to do that. All right. We're going to be doing a big story. Now, Brandon Johnson said that he was going to work to eliminate speed cameras. He hasn't done anything yet. I don't know that he's actually doing it. Nobody has reached out to us to have any conversation with me about that specifically. And certainly he and I have had conversations about that. And he's made that promise on the campaign trail, and I have a clip of it. And so, we want to remind him of it. Again, I want him to be successful, but we're going to still hold them to account and to make sure that they deliver on those goods. All right. So that's going to be it for this evening. So make sure that if you want to join us tomorrow, text 10x10 to the number 855-909-1385 so you can get into text alert. Share that with others to get into text alert about building the Independent Black Voting Bloc, which is the independent union of Black voters, in order for us to impact elections, to select, slate, and elect people from our own to represent the interests of our community in a much more equitable way than it is being represented now. Look, billions of dollars are coming to the state of Illinois, and we do not want those billions of dollars to go right past our community. We need to make sure that industry is coming into our community where there can be opportunity for our young men and women to get jobs that they can start and retire from, earning a good living. Advanced manufacturing jobs, there's 46,000 projects that are happening around the country. People are going to work, 200 and some odd thousand people a day who didn't have jobs. Yesterday are going to work in jobs making $80,000-$90,000 a year, and providing a good living for themselves, and rebuilding our infrastructure. And that's happening here in Chicago, or not in Chicago, I should say, but happening here in the state of Illinois, where we have, car dealerships that are being invested in places like Belvedere and Kankakee, a battery plant that's 2,500 jobs out there. In Kankakee, we need that same thing out on the south and west sides of Chicago, where people don't have to travel an hour to get to work. People can go to work in 15, 20 minutes in their same neighborhood, the same way that we had U.S. Steel um, manufacturer or plant out there on the southeast lakefront, 600 acres out there that's shovel ready, meaning that it is environmentally clean and ready for industry to come and develop and bring all kinds of opportunity for our communities. We need to um, force our government and force our mayor and our governor and everybody else to make sure that they're bringing industry to the inner city. That is going to be beneficial for our communities. We must focus on strengthening the economic power of our community, but we can't do that if we are a bunch of disorganized people. Just remember that it's not going to happen by any one person. It is going to happen by all of us coming together, or at least a large number of us coming together. It's never going to be all of us, but if a bigger enough number of some of us come together, we can make a difference for all of us. Let me say that again. If a large enough number of us comes together, stays together, moves together, works together, we could be the difference for all of us. That's all that I am asking, is for us to demonstrate to us what real power is and can be and will be. All we have to do is to organize ourselves together. 10 by 10 to win. If we need 10,000 people in each one of our wards, and that will give us 200,000 people in to start the independent voting block. And then we can build from that point. We can build it to as large as 1 million people right here in the state of Illinois. We will control every elected seat. And I'm going to demonstrate that to you how tomorrow by showing you the exit poll numbers. You're going to see them in real time tomorrow night at tomorrow night's meeting, at our virtual meeting by Zoom, 10 by 10 to win. Just text 10x10 to the number 855-909-1385. And tomorrow, when the text alert goes out, you will receive the Zoom link for the meeting that starts at 6:30 and it ends at 8 o'clock sharp. We are organizing. That's what we're doing. We are organizing, because if we don't organize, the rest will continue to fight, but we'll be fighting from a position that we don't have a whole lot of strength, and we may make some minor progress that we won't even be able to measure. All right, so that's going to do it for this edition of the People Show. Make sure that you all get the information. If you have red light camera tickets or speed camera tickets and you want to share your story, please get in contact with me. You can contact me at 773-617-2042, or you can email me at markjwus@gmail.com, or you can call me at my number, 773-617-2042. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow night.